and welcome to Getting Your Money's Worth, the show that focuses on value. I'm Judith West, and our guest today is Harry Dannenberg, main counselor at SCORE.
Well, one of 74.
One of 74 counselors at SCORE. And SCORE is a national company,
It's
a national nonprofit,
not-for-profit.
a national nonprofit dedicated to the entrepreneur.
That is
small
correct.
businessman. Is that
Yes,
correct? Small
that
businesswoman.
is.
Okay. And you're one of the lead counselors on the New York chapter.
Yes.
Okay. Why the word SCORE?
Well, it's an acronym.
Oh, the name scoff.
It's an
Yeah.
acronym, and it's essentially an organization of retired executives, which is the way it originally was conceived. We're part of the Small Business Administration, the SBA.
You are a part of SBA.
Funded by the federal government.
Oh.
And we do have a very limited budget, and we do our own fundraising. We use our seminars as a vehicle for doing that. And our main focus is that when SBA was created, they did direct lending to small businesses. The failure rate was horrific. So it was during the Eisenhower administration.
Right.
So they went ahead and they said, look, we're going to need some people to counsel the people who come to the SBA for money, because they had a failure rate of like 74% of the businesses that started. And the result of that was that SCORE was created for the purposes of creating an opportunity for people to prepare for their businesses when they get the loan, knowing what to do with the money, how best to use it. And we've, of course, extended on that, way beyond that.
Way beyond that.
And in fact, we do competitive work with kids who are competing in business plan competitions. We have an office at the Stern School. We do a Baruch competition.
You work with the New York Public Library. We had somebody
the
on
library, yes,
2
and
weeks
we
ago
have
about your show.
outposts at the library.
The creation, the development and creation of a small business. And first off, business schools today offer majors in entrepreneurship.
Yes, they do. Baruch,
Which I was very surprised at,
Yes.
and leading organizations talk about entrepreneurship. Harry, you're a counselor in this field. Can entrepreneurship be taught?
Well, here's the way we approach it.
Okay.
People come to us if it's a startup. They
Yes.
come to us with an idea, and we do an evaluation, immediate evaluation of the idea. How credible it is. Do they have enough resources? Do they have the business experience? Do they have enough acumen? And the more we talk to them, the more we arrive at what's feasible and what isn't. And I do a seminar on the 10 reasons why businesses fail.
Right.
And it takes you step by step through a process.
What is the number one reason businesses fail?
There isn't one.
No, there isn't?
No, there isn't one, because
Okay.
it's like I equate it to a human being, and that is, it's a living thing. And if your brain doesn't function, you're not going to survive. If your heart is no good, you're not going to make it. If your liver, so it isn't any one thing.
Okay,
It's a
so
whole
that's a good
host
point.
of things, you know. And some of those things you can hire people and have them fulfill that function for you, an accountant, an attorney. But others, you have to know how to do it yourself. And the critical issue is, do you have experience in the industry that you want to go into?
Right.
And if that isn't there, then you better go and gain the experience. It's not impossible. Get a job. Do it on Saturdays if you have another full-time.
And you probably should keep a full-time job if you're thinking of starting a new one, right?
Absolutely. And best off if you go into things and you're playing with a full deck. We live in a very competitive world today. And if people don't approach that, realizing that they're in a competitive situation, the consumer is not sympathetic to you. If you don't have what they want, they're not going to buy it because you're a nice person. At the right price, with the right presentation. And whether it be a brick and mortar business or it's an online business, they all have their own peculiarities, but they all have common denominators.
You know what surprises me, Harry? I live on 57th Street, and I walk on 2nd Avenue, 3rd Avenue, Madison, Lexington. Inevitably, I see a storefront, whether it's a restaurant or retail business, that goes out of business. Several months later, the same kind of business goes into that same location, and I've seen that 2 or 3 times. And I say to myself, what makes the person who's coming in with a fast food joint or a a bistro think that he or she is going to be any better than the person before them that failed. But I see it all the time.
Yes, and aside from the issue of knowing your business and the experience, there's another major issue, and that is the uniqueness of the product that you're selling.
Yeah, right.
You have to have a reason to be.
That's where I was going.
And especially when you're running an online business, because if you cannot compete on a broad spectrum. You've got too many generalists. You've got department stores, chains to compete with. So you have to find a niche. And if you have a good niche, you can build on it.
Can you compete on price alone?
No.
No.
No, because again, as a small entrepreneur, unless you're operating a street vending business where you have no rent and you can work on an extraordinarily small markup because you don't have to worry about a guy who's got a store and has to pay rent and has an overhead, you can then undercut people and sell it. But that's a very small business, and if that's an acceptable approach, we help people like that. I mean, we don't bring any attitude to the table at all. Whatever it is that the client wants to do, whatever needs they have, we're there to fulfill those needs in the best way we can for them.
Entrepreneurship, small business owners, is growing with this economic debacle that we're into, or climate, I should use the better word, climate that we're into.
Yes, our population is growing. We're having more clients. We're now servicing 1,000 people a month at SCORE of individuals who come in, many of whom have been laid off from work, looking for opportunities, coming to us with ideas. Oftentimes, they're not very well thought out. Oftentimes, people aren't prepared. And we have to deal with those issues, and we try to let them down gently if we feel that they're really not prepared to do it. The worst stories, the worst scenarios are people who come in, they take their family's money, they borrow from their mothers and their relatives. And I look at this and I say, hey, this isn't going to work. And please understand, we want you to succeed, but you're not ready. And this is what you're going to have to do to get ready. And don't take your family's money. Don't ask your father to take money from his pension in order
or a second mortgage or something.
Or something like that. Right. And I mean, I would say in at least 50% of the cases, we try to protect the people who come in from doing damage to themselves. And that's a very important part of our function.
This has become, and I'm glad you met, brother, it's become a certain style now where first off, parents are disappointed. They send their children to college. They send their young adults to school. They pay a lot of money. And the kids graduate. They can't find a job.
Yes.
And so they say, well, I've already invested $100,000. I've already invested $200,000 or something in their education. And now what? And they almost feel compelled or obligated to help their recent graduate invest in a business. Often that is not a good way to use the money.
No, it can be horrific. It can be horrific. Somebody has to look at that.
Can you advise parents just to practice some tough love and say, this is not a good way to use our money?
I think you can objectify the standards and the requirements to create the business that they want to go into, and sit down with them and do an objective evaluation, or even come with them to SCORE. We'd be glad to deal with them. If parents are willing, if children want to come, young adults want to come with their parents or their friends or whoever wants to invest in that business and have us look at it with them together, we'd be more than happy to do that.
And that's very good to know. And we'll put that on the website. But the few minutes that we have left, let's talk about things to help folks internalize what they should be thinking in their own mind, or potential investors. Is that called angel investor?
Yes.
The angel being the father or some other or the mother?
There are a variety of angels.
There are a variety of angels, right? And sometimes it's the devil. But let's talk about the things that for people that are watching us and thinking about, what you say with any one thing, but to get started, what's the first thing that you should, where should you start thinking?
You have to have experience in the industry that you want to go into.
Right.
That's critical.
So if you just because you happen to love a certain kind of wrap, it doesn't mean that you're ready to go into the business of selling those
and we get
those
people
kind of sandwiches.
With Aunt Millie's tomato sauce, and Aunt Millie makes a great, and there happens to be an Aunt Millie,
but Aunt Polly or something.
Aunt Polly's tomatoes, she makes a great tomato sauce. I think I'll open up a restaurant and sell spaghetti with her tomato sauce. Wrong.
Right.
Can't work.
Right.
It will fail.
It would fail.
Okay? That's one thing. Then the other thing is, do you have enough capital? Have you done a business plan? Now, you cannot go into a new business without having developed a business plan, because that's the roadmap.
What's a business plan in a brief
Very briefly, it defines and outlines the specific needs that you're going to have to
How
cover.
much money to cover your basic expenses?
Right. Startup cost of the business, the painting, the fixtures, whatever it is, okay? And then enough money to cover the labor costs for the first couple of months in order.
The rent.
The rent,
utility,
the
just like anybody's household budget.
Precisely, and the inventory.
Right.
And you have to project that out over a period of a year at least.
So 1 year you should project your startup and maintenance costs.
That's right.
1 year.
1 year.
And what should you do about projecting your revenue to pay those costs?
Well, now that's the tricky part of this whole thing, is that if you don't build a cushion if you're overly optimistic and you don't create a cushion, and then I can give you anecdotal experience that'll go on forever, but if you haven't provided yourself with enough room to have something go wrong when you open up in the winter and you have a snowstorm or a blizzard, or there's a strike, or any
or
other
you have a flood, or
any sundry number of mishaps, or for whatever reason the timing of your opening for whatever reason is inappropriate, and you're not going to really see the business grow
from day one
for a couple of months before people catch on to you.
Right.
Have you got enough resources to carry you through that
What's
tough
a
period?
reasonable window of carry-through resources?
That's a toughie, because it varies from industry to industry.
Should it be 6 months or a first year? I mean, it takes time, no matter what you're selling, to develop a following, doesn't it, Harry?
Well, let's look at it this way. You're going to probably lose money in the first year of your business.
Right.
And if you have the resources to afford the loss
while you're getting the loss, you still have your ongoing expenses.
Well, yes, and that loss is going to reflect in the issue of whether or not you have enough money to continue your business on. Because if you started off and you projected sales of $5,000 and you've been running your business at $6,000, okay, now you've got $1,000 shortfall.
And then it drops to $4,000, you got a $2,000 shorter.
You got a $2,000. And how much of that can you endure before you have to close the door? So the best situation is that you've got at least enough resources available so that you can survive the first 6 months with whatever unexpected occurrences there might be.
Okay. And that's that's exactly the kind of focus that you guys get.
Yes.
Okay. We have a minute left.
Okay.
In summary, you have counsels available in a variety of
every imaginable industry.
But for folks, before they even come to you, this development of the business plan,
they should come in and talk to us.
What should they come with?
We're all generalists.
Okay.
So we do an initial interview.
Okay.
And then
what should they come with?
They should come with whatever information they have available and a defined understanding of what they want to do.
Right.
And they should be prepared to deliver that in the best manner possible.
And they should have thought through also how they're going to finance.
How they're going to finance it? Have they the experience to undertake the venture that they're trying to get into? Do they have the necessary resources? Experience,
and passion.
And the passion.
I'm an entrepreneur myself. I have to put in passion.
If you haven't got the passion, then you're not going to survive the struggle. Exactly. And the struggle is a guarantee for anybody.
But after all, no matter what's going on in this country, the single best way one of the best ways to achieve the American dream is with the entrepreneur.
We believe that because we all started that way.
So do I, because I started that way too.
Exactly.
Thanks for being on the show.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. We've just talked with Harry Dannenberg, one of the main counselors at SCORE National, for all budding entrepreneurs and already entrepreneurs. Thanks for watching.